There are five things that are at play in the world today, not being taken note by many, but we can see the reaction and the evidence every time you turn on the news cycle or you walk through your community. What is happening today with all the chaos, the crime, the violence, poor leaderships? What are the reasons? Well, one of the main reasons is found in Jeremiah chapter 8, 9b, which says, "They have rejected the words of Jehovah, and what knowledge do they have?" Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 30 state this fact: "There is no wisdom or any discernment, nor any counsel in opposition to Jehovah." So when world leaders decide that they do not need God, and when religious people, especially the clergy, the pastors, the bishops, the reverends, whoever they are, decide that they are too afraid to expound the words of God, to edify and educate the masses, then there is no wisdom or knowledge for positive guidance. And as a result, the world have descended into disorder and chaos. So you have depression, rejection, deception, desperation, and frustration. This is what you're seeing in the world today. Now, I want to start first with the parents, because 2 days ago, I came across a short video out of Barbados. And there was a young man there, no more between, I say, 8 to 10 years old. And when you look at his face, it looked like he just weaned off his mother's milk. He was so baby-like. And besides him was one of his friends or relatives, had his face completely covered in a mask like a terrorist. You could barely see his eyes. And he was brandishing a weapon about a foot long. I would call it a saw-tooth blade, because the blade looked like the teeth of a saw. And he was saying, "You want war? There's war. I just got this in my school bag. And let me tell you all who think in the bag. I got this here for in my bag." So if a child that young could go in public and make a video advocating terrorist violence at his school, what is going on in that household? Is the parents paying attention to that child or guiding it, or is that household one of ill repute whereby anything goes? Now we blame the government. Yes, the government have to share some blame, but let's start with the parents. Are you raising a Timothy or a terror? The good book tells me in the book of 1 Timothy, the Apostle Paul was highly appreciative of a young man named Timothy, because his mother Eunice and grandmother Lois have nurtured him well, that he had a fine reputation. So parents and grandparents can go a long way into making a child be something good in society or bad in society. So I'm asking you parents, are you raising a Timothy or a terror? Because that young man from Barbados that I saw that video, no more than 8 to 10 years old at the most, was a terror. Why is he a terror? Well, I'll tell you why. Proverbs 22:13 said, do not hold back discipline from the mere boy. In case you beat him with the rod, he will not die. With the rod you should beat him so as to save his soul and deliver him from death. Why are we seeing so much death among the youth? Young kids are run about with weapons and guns. I saw another video, St. Lawrence got Barbados. An argument ended up with people pulling out machetes, slashing at one another. Then one had a shovel. A mother picked up a broomstick. It was a free-for-all on St. Lawrence Gap, and it ended up in a gunshot. One dead. And everybody run all over the place. Yes, they have rejected the words of God, and no knowledge or wisdom do they have. It ends up in frustration, desperation, and depression. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way it should go, and when it get old, even then it will not depart therefrom. Parents, are you raising a Timothy or a terror? Yes, you are responsible for the youth violence in your community. Because in your household, you did not instill discipline in your children or your grandchildren. You let the TV raise the children. You let the gangs raise your children. You let the violent video games raise your children, but you as a parent were missing in action. Can we go a little further? Yes, we can. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6 and 7 say, and these words I'm commanding you today must prove to be on your heart, and you must inculcate them in your sons and speak to them when you sit down in your house, when you walk on the road, when you lay down, and when you get up. Let's take that word inculcate. You can use another word, infusion. So it means that you have to take time to make sure that the words you speak to your child gets into his brain and into his heart and motivate him in the positive way. It takes effort. The Bible says when you're in your house, when you're on the road, when you lay down, and when you get up. So are you spending quality time with your children and grandchildren? Or are you too busy watching your favorite soap opera and tells you, I don't have time for you? Then the child turns to his own friends, and you have problems. Parents and grandparents, you must share the blame for some of the youth violence. Don't blame it all on the government. The government are to blame, and get the government also. Okay? Now, what are you going to do now that I have alerted you to your responsibility? I want to read something from Proverbs chapter 1. And I want you to see deception, when you can be deceived by thinking that you know everything and what you do have no consequences. And rejection, how you could reject wise counsel. And then you could become depressed and frustrated, and you lash out in desperation and frustration, and hence the violence. Proverbs chapter 1, and I encourage every parent and grandparent to read this passage of scripture to their young children. It reads as follows, Proverbs chapter 1, starting at verse 10. My son, if sinners try to seduce you, do not consent. If they keep saying, do go with us, do let us lie in ambush for blood, do let us lie in concealment for the innocent men without cause, let us swallow them down alive like in Sheol, even whole like those going into a pit. Let us find all sort of precious valuables. Your lot you ought to cast in among us. Let there come the one bag belong to all of us. My son, do not go in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their roadway. For their feet are those that run to share badness, and they keep hastening to shed blood. Did you hear that? The Bible here long ago was warning of gang activity. It tells you do not consent to be in a gang and go and lay in wait for people to ambush them and take what belongs to them. It will lead to bloodshed. And hence we see that throughout the Caribbean and especially in Barbados, you have people carjacking, robbing people at gunpoint at the grocery store, at the gas station, on their porch, stabbings in the schools. Everywhere you see this gang activity, gun running, drug dealing, stealing, all kind of things is going on, and you wonder why. Because it goes back to Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 30. They rejected the words of God, and what wisdom do they have? None whatsoever. None. Except what they see on TV, and in the movies with the violence, and in the rap songs with all the vulgarity and the violence. That is what is driving this madness. Let's continue in the book of Proverbs. For it is for nothing that the net is spread. Consequently, they themselves lie in ambush for the very blood of these, and they lay in concealment for their souls. Thus are the path of everyone making unjust profits. It takes away the very soul of its owners. So we see that when you go and try to rob and steal, that's unjust profits. You want to take what don't belong to you and get rich by it. The government is also responsible because we see in Barbados that the Prime Minister, let's change that name, CRIM, the Prime Minister-in-Chief, is only interested in gaining unjust profits, like the Bible said here, and it takes away the soul of its owners. Why are you losing so much lives on the island? Because of her lust for greed and power, lying about climate change, telling lies, and at the same time, she's selling off all the beachfront properties to foreign investors who could fill her hand, and she made that unjust profits. So as you say climate change and the sea level is rising, to fool the people, why are you building mansions on the beach? The Bible said, he who builds on the sand, his house will collapse. So then climate change is a hoax, because as you believe what you say, you won't be building and taking up all the beachfront land and selling it off for people to build their mansions and prohibit the locals from entering. From the Garrison all the way down to the back of the Old Empire Theatre, the Bay Street Corridor, the seashore. You want to demolish the heritage and give it to the people from Dubai, that rich nation, to build their own Dubai on the island for your unjust gain. The children are watching this and say, well, me too, I want to have some unjust gain. The government are not giving me nothing, so I'm going to go there and take what I can. the lack of wisdom and vision. The Bible says, there's no vision, the people perish. And when the wicked one rules, the people suffer. And then you go to Spike's Town, and what you want to do? Demolish all the historical heritage for your selfish gain on just profits, like Proverbs said. And that will lead to what? Bloodshed and disaster. Everywhere on just profits and collusion leads to disaster. Let's go on to the Bible. Proverbs 1 verse 20. There, true wisdom itself keeps crying aloud in the street, and the public squares it keeps giving forth its voice. At the upper end of the noisy street it calls out. At the entrance of the gates into the city it sings, how long will you inexperienced ones keep loving inexperience? And how long must you ridiculers desire for yourself outright ridicule? And how long will you stupid ones keep hating knowledge? Turn back at my reproof. Then to you I will cause my spirit to bubble forth. I will make my words known to you, because I have called out, but you keep refusing, rejecting. I have stretched out my hand, but there's no one paying attention. And you keep neglecting all my counsel, and my reproof you have not accepted. I also, for my part, shall laugh at your disaster. I shall mock when what you dread comes. When what you dread comes just like a storm, and your own disaster gets here just like a storm rain. When distress and hard times come upon you, at that time they will keep calling for me, but I shall not answer. They will keep looking for me, but they will not find me. For the very reason that they hated knowledge and the fear of Jehovah, they did not choose. They did not consent to my counsel. They disrespected all my reproof, so they will eat from the fruitage of their way, and they will be glutted with their own counsels. For the renegading of the inexperienced ones is what will kill them, and the easygoingness of the stupid ones is what will destroy them. As for the one listening to me, he will reside in security and be undisturbed from the dread of calamity. So there in Proverbs chapter 1 is laid out the very conditions we see here of deception, rejection, depression, desperation, and frustration. That's what is the cause of the troubles in the world. First, you reject God's word. You close your ear. You blind your eyes. And you go on and do your own thing because you want unjust profits and gain. And then what happens? Disaster comes in from every corner like a flood and a storm. Hence the violence. Because of frustration and desperation and rejection, that brings depression. Yes, that's why you see lashing out among the youth. They are depressed. They are frustrated. They see no true leadership, no vision for the future. Because the city leaders is grabbing everything and making themselves rich, they and their own friends, but they are suffering. So where there is no true vision, the people perish. And when a wicked person rules and holds power, the people suffer. So both parents and the governmental leaders are responsible jointly for the calamity that we see today. Now let me get into the government, and I want to address especially to Mayor Amor Mortley. Proverbs 22:22 tells you, do not rob the lowly because he is lowly, and do not crush the afflicted ones in the gate. For Jehovah is strong, and he will plead their cause, and he will certainly rob soul for soul those robbing them. So you think that you could use your gatherings and your smooth talk and your deception for your own aggrandizement while the people suffer. You could take away everything from the people, destroy their historical heritage, and do not listen to the cries of the people. No, God is watching you, and you will suffer the consequences, because Proverbs 20:17 said, bread gained by falsehood is at first pleasurable, but afterwards your mouth will be filled with gravel. You think about that for a moment. Verse 21 of the same Proverbs chapter 17. An inheritance is at first gotten by greed, but afterwards its future will not be blessed. Mayor Mortley, you have denied the existence and the power of God. You had a conference where you said they are creators. You didn't give credit to God, the creator. There's only one God, not two or three, and his son Christ Jesus. But neither one you have respected, because you removed the word God out of the House of Parliament, and you run to the IMF and the WEF and the World Bank. There are your gods, and then you get in bed with the China communists. And you have allowed the China communists to come into Barbados and steal the land of your people. Why did you allow the Chinese to go to St. John and beat up a man for his own family possessions, and you did not stand up for your own resident against a Chinese invasion? You let the Chinese actually take over St. Thomas and building big bonds in storehouses that you give them the preference of importation of food for the Barbadian people, to poison them, to make them sick with artificial food, rather than use the plantation land to grow crops. You are planting bricks, mortar, and sand on arable plantation land. That's how evil you are. Once before, Barbadians could feed themselves because the plantations grow sugar cane, which kept up the economy. They grow yams, potatoes, pigeon peas, sorrel, okras, all food stuff. We had our mango trees, or guava trees, or soursop trees, or breadfruit trees, or lemon trees, or lemon trees, etc., etc. Now you want all things to come in through imports. And then the price is unaffordable because of your lack of vision. Because you sold your soul to your creditors. Barbados now have the highest debt rate per GDP of 102%. The highest debt in the Caribbean is Barbados. It's drowned into its eyeballs in debt, Mayor Mortley, because of your ignorance, because of your greed and graft. And then your creditors force you into debt restructuring, debt reconciliation, that you have to lower the percentage of debt ratio to GDP by 60% by the year 2035. Because Barbados have no natural resources. They have no minerals to which to pay back your creditors. So they order you to do what? Destroy all the national heritage and historical sites and give it to them to build what they want to do. So you see on Brandon Beach, what is happening in Brandon Beach? A man by Peter Maloney is building up mega mansion condos in which Venezuelans are occupying. Venezuela have the most disgusting criminals of any place in that hemisphere. But you have them in Barbados. You have Mexicans in Barbados, in St. Peter, and they're doing most of the construction. You have Indians. You have Chinese. All foreign people that you're using to destroy the heritage of your island and want to give no accountability to the people because of your greed for unjust profits that I just outlined in Proverbs chapter 1. And because, according to Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 9b, you have rejected the words of God, and what wisdom, mere mortal, do you have? None. Back to Proverbs again. Proverbs 21 verse 30 said there is no wisdom, no knowledge or insight in opposition to God. So, mere mortal, you are not a leader that have any vision or wisdom. Your ignorance is what is destroying your island. You lack insight because you rejected God and He allowed you to go astray. You have the preachers afraid to preach because of your cybercrime bill. You want to silence the voice of the people because that was given to you by your benefactors, that you must keep the people under subjection. So there's rejection, deception. Give me the votes and watch from me immortally. That was deception, deception. You are full of deceptive practices. And rejection is that you fail to meet with the people and give them any accountability or transparency, mere mortally. So the people are depressed, and therefore they lash out because of frustration and desperation. They take it to the streets because they see that's the only hope. Yes, you and your administration have a lot to blame for the violence in Barbados, for the poverty, for the lack of transparency, and for the destruction of their culture and their heritage. You cannot escape the fact that because of your greed and your lust for power have caused Barbados to be in a critical condition whereby the people of the island will soon own nothing unless they rise up and stand up. Why are there Venezuelans, Indians, Chinese, Mexicans, Australians now dominating in that island on the best parts of the land? It could not be done unless me and Martley, you allowed it. You do not see your people as worthy of anything, and now you're asking foreign people to come in there and be part of the police constabulary. Fill the outside people with power over your own people. Why you want to import foreign people now to come to join the police and the regiment? Why? Because that's part of the UN 2030 agenda, whereby migration replacement. You get rid of your people and bring in a flash flood of people from other lands to dominate and change the whole social economic fabric of a nation for this so-called world government. Well, the only world government is found in Isaiah chapter 69. And unto us a son is given, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Eternal Prince of Peace, the Everlasting Father. To the end of his reign, there will be no end. Upon the throne of David, to establish it firmly forever. The Bible is speaking of Jesus, the Son of God. So, any counterfeit world government of which you are joining through the UN will fail. Because Daniel 2:44 said that God's kingdom will crush that image of false governments of which you are part of. So enjoy your ride, but your time is short. Mia Martley, you and all your corrupt cabal will be brought to judgment because you have engaged in racketeering and criminal conduct at the expense of your people. Now God is watching, and you will be brought to justice. And parents, you will be held responsible if you did not raise a Timothy but raise a terror. You too must set guidance in your household and see that your children is molded in a way that will be productive citizens in society. You cannot just depend on the government because the governments are completely corrupted. The educational system have descended into indoctrination, immorality, transgender, and all this kind of nonsense. Telling the children that they are not who they were born to be. A boy should be a girl and a girl should be a boy, but God said, I made two genders. Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10. This LGBTQXY is nonsense. And you go along with that because you are of the same feather. Birds of a feather flock together, Mia Martley. You are woefully lacking. You are ungodly. Yet you wear a cross around your neck. But you have no reverence for God or Christ. You wear that as a talisman, a good luck charm. Hope it will protect you, but give you evil power over your people. It's a false fakery. You are fake. You are fraud. You are deceptive. All because you have rejected God's guidance and think that you yourself are a God. But you are not. You are no God except a false God, and your God is Lucifer. Turn back, like Proverbs said. He said, turn back at my reproof. Because I have called to you, but you did not pay attention. Thus your calamity will come like a storm wind. And you cannot turn back a storm wind when it comes. No one can. But you have created a scenario for that. So that your streets are full of crime, fighting, violence, shooting in the streets, carjackings, stabbings in the school. Everything is out of control. Why? Because you have deceived the people of your gatherings. everything is okay, come to the gathering. But behind that, everything has fallen apart. So that in Jeremiah it says, surely they have worked with false stylus. They have said there is peace when there is no peace. And you hear the word fake news. That's what you have propagated. A false sense of security to the people that you're gathering. And you know it's a lie. But the Bible said, and they try to soothe the breakdown of my people by saying, there is peace. There is peace. There is peace. But God said, there is no peace. Because there is no knowledge or wisdom in opposition to God. And there you have it, people. Return to God and obey his commands, or there will be no success. Both parents and government leaders, and especially me and Martin in Barbados, needs a correction, a redirection of guidance. But she will not, because she is too far gone down the rabbit hole of greed and corruption. So the people themselves have to rise up and mount up like eagles, and speak up and regain their heritage. And do not allow one demonic minion by the name of me, Emma Martley, to make you go godless and heathenistic and to be in silence and fear and lose everything that your ancestors worked hard to put there for you, and that is your heritage and your legacy and belongs to you. Your island do not belong to no foreign entity or no foreign mafia person. It belongs to you, the Bajan people. Come out by the thousands and take back your heritage and tell me and Martley, get the hell out. Amen.